YouTube in 1 minute. Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit flat there. Good, but nevertheless. This is going to be a video on a number of things. I'm going to start it off with probably one of the more ridiculous stories this week, even with the Democrats trying to impeach Trump, something I don't support. And not only because I don't have anything specifically against Trump, it's not even specifically about that. I'm against this for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons is also Democratic strategy. Strategically, it's a bad idea for Democrats. And I can see someone's already logged out within less than a minute of me making a video. Thank you for being so very patient and really giving me a chance. Anyways, this is actually stranger than that. And this is the kind of thing I have wondered about. This is conservative fear-mongering along with feminist rape culture bullshit. And it's all merged into one to make this nonsense. This is crazier than anything else that happened this week, including the Trump issue. And that is this. A 5-year-old artistic boy, so keep in mind, not only is he a 5-year-old boy, he's also freaking artistic. A 5-year-old boy has been accused of being a sex offender. Now, you might wonder, take it into consideration, how in the ever-living hell could a 5-year-old possibly be a sex offender, considering the fact he is himself not only a child, but a small one? 1 fucking minute. Yeah, that's nice. A minute. Alright. Back from the pop-ups. How could a small child, not just a child, we're not talking a teenager here, we're not talking a preteen here, we are talking someone who is essentially a toddler at this point, or not far from being a toddler, has now been accused of sex offense, being a sex offender. And why, you ask? Because he hugged a female classmate. I am shitting you not. Anyways, they put him in special ed class, and I'm not sure how far from, like, what side of the spectrum he's on. I have a low functioning form of autism, so I have Asperger's, so I'm not really far on the other end of the spectrum where it's like I'm completely, mentally challenged like he might be. But he probably, in all honesty, should have been in a special ed class to begin with. But the point is, they contacted the mother, said that he was a sex offender. This is a 5-year-old because he hugged another person. Because that's the kind of thing in our society. Damn. You see, that is one reason why my videos suck. Because every time I get going or I kind of get a good rhythm, pop up. But anyways, the point is, or a coughing fit or whatever. The point is, what was the fucking point? Anyways, in a society as tormented as ours, is divided as ours, is full of hatred and anger as ours, is what ours is. The last thing you want, you really need to be teaching children, hey, don't hug each other, don't be friends. That's sexual offense. As if though that has ever fucking, it's nonsense. And I don't know if this is true or not, but there was someone who's a user who watches my videos, a YouTuber. Jesus fucking Christ. YouTube user. And he said supposedly he went to some church and he was a part of some kind of coffee break, and they kicked him out of the coffee break because he hugged a 10-year-old girl or something of that nature. Or some small girl. He hugged her, and they accused him of being some kind of pervert and said he couldn't come back to the coffee service, but he could come to church. As if though anyone would want to go to a church that accused you of doing something like that in the first place. But yeah, that's what you want to teach children. Don't hug each other. You should probably, whenever you see someone, kick the shit out of them. I guess that's what you want to teach them. Anyways, back to the next one. Into the next thing. I'm going to go ahead and before I get to Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan, rather, I'm going to talk about this gender neutral dolls. Fuck me. I don't know if you've noticed this, but gender neutral dolls are coming out, and they're calling that kind of the programming of children, or however they put that, the children being socially programmed. Actually, no, the entire concept of gender roles, really, when you started doing that, probably as many thousands of years ago as it was, that was actually the social programming of children, not androgyny. Androgyny is telling children you can do what you want, do what comes naturally to you. So if you're a girl and you want to be a housewife, and you're a guy, you want to be a fucking lumberjack, that's up to you. But on the other hand, if a guy wants to be a drag queen and the girl wants to be a fucking professional basketball player, or whatever the hell it is you want to do, you can also do that. You can be one thing or you can be the other thing. It doesn't matter what gender you are. That's not social programming. That's not brainwashing the children, telling them you have to be one specific thing because you're born a specific way. That was the brainwashing, and you did that many, many aeons ago. So you're completely fucking wrong. But beyond that, if you're a man, a conservative, or whatever else, let's say you're a men's rights activist, or you're concerned with male issues, if you're noticed, that was a boy that is talked about a while ago, being accused of being a sex offender because he hugged a girl. All right, you understand? Do you understand? I don't think a gender role that is that fucking suspected of doing things like that, where it's almost a part of the role that they can't be trusted, that they're perverts, they're sexually aggressive, and that they are essentially idiots. I don't think it's a good thing to keep a gender role like that around, and I don't think anyone wants to be a part of that gender role in the first place, so I don't see anything wrong with getting rid of that gender role. We have essentially really gotten rid of a great deal of the female role already. Like back in the 50s, and this is hard to believe, but into the 50s and into the 60s, women were not allowed in parts of New York, in New York City, to go out of the house in a skirt. Or I'm sorry, I mean, rather, they could not leave the house in jeans or pants. They had to wear a skirt. That was the truth for women. And I do not see any reason why 50 years from now you won't be saying the same thing about men in long hair, men in makeup, why we won't be saying the same thing about them. If that's what a guy wants to do, let them do it. And that won't be something that's considered just as crazy as what we did back then concerning women who wore pants. It'll be looked at the same way because it's all nonsense that you made up. So I think it's a good thing they're getting rid of gender, and they should. All right, Joe Rogan defends Jordan Peterson because of his pill addiction. And normally, I could not be more sympathetic to someone like that. I have had my share of addictions. I understand what he's going through with. But at the same time, I don't respect Jordan Peterson for a number of reasons. I'm going to go into some of them. I think he's a fraud. I think he's a right-wing con man. I don't like the guy. And I'm going to go into details as to why that is. First off, first things first, the guy defended genital mutilation of children or circumcision. Now, here's the thing that's so bad about that. He didn't just defend it in a normal human way. He essentially specifically defended it, as I have talked about before, as a way of instilling responsibility, mocking them for the responsibility of majority men, males only, before they're old enough to wipe their ass. Literally. They can't even find their ass on a map. They're too goddamn little to feed themselves, but you're going to make them a mess. Like, this is literally what this fucking retard said, pretty much. And he said this about males and only males, and he would be the same kind of jerk that would be against female genital mutilation, but not male genital mutilation, as if though there's any damn difference when you're talking about fucking children. It's the same damn thing. They're children. They're the same. Really, you remain the same, and there's not a great deal of difference between males and females anyways. Largely, it's an illusion that you're male or female, and the entire damn thing is made up anyways. But specifically, when you're a child, it's made up. It's made up. Your reproductive organs aren't working correctly yet. You can't have kids. Girls don't have breasts. Boys, when they're born, girls when they're born, look the same. You can't really tell the fucking difference. They are the same. You made up differences, and you called it gender, and it's bullshit mostly. But back to the point, he defended child genital mutilation and did so in a very ruthless, brutal way. But even that is not really ultimately why I fucking think that he's a fraud. I don't give a shit about his fucking suffering or his drug addiction. And believe me, if anyone knows addictions, it's my ass. But that's not even why. This freaking crook, and this does tie in with that because that was part of the reason he said this, but he teaches responsibility. He's a self-help guru. He goes around finding flaws in everyone else and telling them what's wrong with them. And then this same fucking prick piece of shit turns around, and all the time he was telling other people what to do, and he was lecturing and giving lectures to other people and preaching to other people and preaching and talking down to them. He's on drugs his damn self. Especially, and it's ridiculous, especially considering he's often talking to young people, particularly males, people who you really should expect to have it together by that point. And this is a guy who, I'm not sure his age, but he's at least over 40, and the fucking prick is still on drugs. He still hasn't got his shit together, but he's going to tell other people what's wrong with them. So then he ends up in a fucking rehab and drug withdrawal because he's a fucking pillhead and his dirty little secret's out. I'm sorry if I'm not the most sympathetic to his problems. I really don't give a shit what happens to him. And I'm sorry if Joe Rogan or anyone else doesn't like that. In my opinion, he's a corrupt fuck. All right. The Pentagon warns that the new Joker movie could trigger mass shootings or violent incel attacks. Listen, I'm not going to pretend for a second. First of all, the problem with some incels or some of these people is not that they're a bunch of ignorant assholes and you probably couldn't help them anyways, because that's probably true for some. But second of all, some of them really are people that have been truly fucked over by society and completely kind of disenfranchised, and they really have no clue about how to live in society or run their lives or do anything. That is the problem with some of them. And the problem seems to me to be not to be worrying about movies. The problem isn't the movie. You put out a Joker movie and some crazy fucks are going to shoot someone. That's not the problem. The problem is they have a lot of issues anyways, and you need to look into that. See, why are these people going crazy? Why are so many people committing shootings? But not only that, why are so many people killing themselves regardless of that? Why is the male suicide rate specifically so high? But not only male. Lots of girls kill themselves too. And we need to look into that. Why are so many people offing themselves every goddamn fucking second of every day? What's doing that? Not, hey, let's blame a fucking Joker movie. Just like you try to blame Marilyn Manson when this shit started back at Columbine. You try to blame Marilyn Manson and Eminem for Columbine activity when they could have had jack shit less to do with it. They didn't have anything to do with those killings. And this Joker movie that the damn Pentagon's trying to worry about, that has nothing to do with killings either. The Joker movie hasn't been out. They haven't put one out. It's not yet come out. You still have shootings. So how the hell can you blame a Joker movie? Stop trying to fucking put off this society's problems onto a fucking trivial scapegoat issue when it goes far, far deeper than that. Trump is just as I feared the Democrats. Trump popularity rises. Wow, who could have predicted that? It's rising. His popularity has risen. This has done nothing to slow him or his agenda down. This has done nothing to harm the Republicans. It once again makes Democrats look like a bunch of goofballs and idiots. And it's proof that we probably will not win in 4 or really 5 years now. And you're looking at 5 more years, including this upcoming year, of a fucking Republican administration, and we will lose. Why? Because you couldn't just rate out the remainder of this fucking term in office that was a little more than a year to begin with anyways, and then just run a campaign against the guy and probably win the general election. You could have done that. You chose not to do that. Congratulations. Just as I predicted, he's already fucking winning. He is not scared. He released freaking a transcript of the phone call he's being accused of. That's kind of complicated, and I'm not really sure what to think yet. Other than the fact he says he didn't do it. He released a transcript and some other information. I don't think the guy would release any of that information had he done any of this. So it seems pretty obvious to me the damn guy's innocent. So what's going to happen is not only is he not going to get impeached, and like I said, it takes 20 fucking votes to impeach the guy. Not only is that now, or I'm not sure if I said that before, but that's not only is that now the case. Not only is that not the case, you're probably going to lose because once again, just like you did with Kavanaugh, just like you did with the Russians, just like you did with the vagina joke, just like you do every time you go after this guy, you find a way to make yourself look like the idiot. And it's not as if though there isn't cases where you could have went after him. The transgender issue, transgender military issue. Had you went after him on that, where he kicked hardworking transgender people serving in the military for years at that point, who were loyal, patriotic citizens. Had you went after him for kicking them out of the military, you might have had a little bit of a fucking chance of winning that. You might have had some ability to win, but you threw that under the bus, didn't even worry about it, and you went after the damn Russian bullshit that no one cared about. Because God forbid you admit you're wrong, take your eye off of this original concept that was completely ignorant, and focus on a real problem. And never minding that, even if he did this, they can't prove for sure that it was even illegal. Even if he did this, they can't prove it's even illegal. And it looks to me like he probably just wanted out of a deal with Ukraine, that I'm not sure if I've said it on this site before, but I have pretty much said before. They're pretty much, Ukraine is pretty much the white Somalia. They are Europe's Somalia. And Russia doesn't like them, and they don't like Russia. And if we give them money and they put it into the military, as I'm sure they do, and they attack Russia, that could easily get Russia to attack us, or we could get in a war with Russia, all because we're giving money to a very corrupt nation that we're not getting anything out of helping in the first place anyways. So the entire thing is fucking ape shit insane, or batshit crazy, and that's why we keep losing. And Tucker Carlson in the White House. You know, I'm not the biggest Tucker Carlson fan. He's someone that's a little bit like Bill Maher. I used to like them more than I do now. I agree with them sometimes. I don't agree with them other times. I can be a bit of an ideologue or a little bit set in my ways. I'll admit that. But, you know, the concept of a Tucker Carlson White House, at least from what he has been saying over the past several years, is not the worst thing possible. And keep in mind, this is a guy who, at least at one point, used to be considered a moderate and went further right, in part because he continually seen nonsense, and the rest of the media went farther right, farther left, to the point where it's like almost like you have to have someone on the right just to balance the shit out. But I obviously don't want that to happen. I would like to have a liberal government, but I will say what Tucker Carlson has said before. It really is a shame that you can't have a legitimate left in this country, or put together a legitimate democratic platform in defense, because there does need to be an opposition party. There needs to be a party, or a political party rather, to challenge the Republicans that are now currently the establishment party, in part because of Democratic incompetence. But unfortunately, as of right now, there is no such party. And your only choice of the Republicans, because the Democrats has proven they're crazy as fuck. And just when you think they might be turning it around, they go and they fuck up and they do the shit they're doing now. And it's only going to continue to fuck us all. But it is a shame we can't have a legitimate Democratic challenger, or a legitimate Democratic offense. We don't have that. We don't have an opponent. We don't have an opposition, in the political opposition in this country to the established party. And that's a shame, but it's the way it is. P666.